Hello, everyone. Welcome to the medVR Apple Vision Pro Medical XR uh, uh, Design Sprint informational session. Purpose of this is to explain what we're trying to do, and if you and to help you decide if you want to get involved with it. I'm looking forward to this. We've got an interesting list of registration people from students to postdocs to professionals, designers, developers, and clinicians. So it's a very representative mix of the people that we want to have involved in the design sprint. A couple of housekeeping notes. There is a Q&A chat down at the bottom. If you've got a question, please put it there. Or if you hello, Jenny.
Hi, sorry I'm late. The Zoom's got me into sign-in loop.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. That's that comes from having 3 engineers use the same Zoom account, which is for sure. Why don't you introduce yourself, Jenny?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Wong. Oh, I guess yes, we have like 25 participants in there. Hi, everyone. So as a point of clarification is I used to be a lecturer and a facilitator at MIT where I did my PhD. I just didn't update my LinkedIn. So that's how I got pulled into the slide for this time. But I kind of officially left in like earlier this year, but I'm still involved in some teaching now. I'm working with Steve on medVR, planning out this Vision Pro design sprint and teaching course. So my background is I'm a mechanical engineer and I've been in XR 360 things, virtual reality for about 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
That's perfect. As I said, I'm Steve Patterson, the executive director of medVR. I like to describe myself as a recovering engineer. It's to the designers out there, it's a one day at a time thing, for sure. So just a little housekeeping. So questions, you can either raise your hand and we'll bring you in on audio, or you can enter your question into the Q&A, and we'll answer them that way. So there's also another chat there, and I noticed that Gary found it. He says hello from Riverside, California. So if you see somebody else that you know that you want to confer with during the talk, please do. I've got a presentation that should last about 25 minutes, maybe a hair less, maybe a hair more, and then we can take you through any questions that you've got. The purpose of this talk again is to provide designers, developers, clinicians with the background of what we're doing, so that you can choose if you're interested in getting involved with the project. We're interested in designers and developers and clinicians that want to participate in the event, and also the very experienced people who are in those fields in XR that want to mentor during the project. So with that, I'll switch to presentation mode. There we go. You should all be seeing Apple Vision Pro Medical XR Design Sprint. So you might want to ask yourself, why do you want to run an Apple Vision Pro Medical XR Design Sprint? There's a couple reasons, and at this point, I'll just mention the point about Apple, which is their work with the Apple Watch in creating research and development has been significant. We don't think this is exclusive, but we do think that it's a good platform for the long term with medical XR. So why are we doing this? We are creating a virtual medical XR accelerator. We'll put it in the Longwood area of Boston, which is one of the densest medical areas. Every day, 22,000 people in the medical community go to work there, and the domain expertise for accelerating the research and development in medical XR are the clinicians, the scientists, the techs, the nurses who have firsthand experience, which is very important. The second is to introduce the interdisciplinary medical XR community to one another. We are very, very early in the development cycle. If you were to apply medical XR to the mobile timeline, with Genesis being 2007 when the iPhone was introduced, we're at about 2011 with very immature ecosystems, and there's a real opportunity to expand that ecosystem. And if there should be a medical XR interdisciplinary ecosystem, it should be in Boston. We have the most significant medical cluster in the world. We've got a significant computing cluster, a significant medical device cluster. We've got 4 engineering schools, 4 medical schools, 4 design schools, 2 public health schools, as well as one of the largest and most vibrant professional XR communities that there is. The thing is to get them all working together. And we want to ignite this medical XR ecosystem here in Boston. So how do we see the design sprint? We having founded a number of XR hackathons, that have gotten quite large. You don't want to start large, and what we want to do is bring together 10 to 15 interdisciplinary teams that are clinician-led with developers and designers. The teams will work on challenges that come from our surveying medical XR experts. If you've followed us, you've seen we've for the last couple of years, we've run regular webinars given by medical XR innovators and about their journey. That's connected us with many XR experts. And from our survey, we came up with about 30 challenges. They were that were answers to the question, if you had talented, trained teams, clinician-led with developers and designers, what challenge would you set them to solving? I think the MVP might be a little bit aggressive, but in 4 to 6 weeks, we hope to provide a demonstration of a solution to the challenges. And then at the end, we'll hold actually 2 conferences. We'll hold one conference just for the mentors and participants, essentially a poster session where everybody explains their experience, what they did, and what they built. And then we'll have a larger event, bringing in people from the entire community that I had mentioned, the long list of participants that so that we can share with the work that we've been doing, and inspire people to start to get involved with this community. So keeping in mind that this is the first pancake always tastes just like all the other ones. Sometimes it's not perfect though. Our goals are to have 2 or 3 projects that merit applying for STTR, SBIR, or other grants, or commercial funding for ongoing development. And secondly, we hope that the poster sessions turn into 2 or 3 conference length research papers that are published, and again to begin to create that network connecting the Boston Medical XR cluster. So preparation. First of all, while we're here, we want to recruit effective teams that are critical to the success of the projects. The challenges survey is nearing completion. We'll have 10 or 12 challenges at the time of the design sprint, and we'll staff them with the expertise for them to succeed. And keeping in mind, the reason we call it a design sprint is we don't want it to be confused with a hackathon. I had the good fortune of attending the augmented reality surgical summer school at the Valcrest University Hospital, put on by the hospital and ETH and the Technical University of Munich. And it was one hard week of classroom time, and then it was one hard week of building time. And the lead person on this is Nasir Nawab, who is in his 3rd decade of research in the field and running events like that. And he was incredibly clear as to why the assigned challenges are important. It's not it's very hard to take new teams and say, imagine the future and now build it. So it's not that we'll be inflexible to doing other things, but the challenges are a really good way to get focused on current research and development that's important. The assigned challenges will determine the clinical specialties we need to recruit. If we need an ophthalmologist and an orthopedic clinician won't fit in. So we'll be recruiting from that basis. Where Jenny is on a team with two other excellent engineers who are preparing a native visionOS developer course. One of the challenges we took on in doing this is there aren't a lot of designers and developers with these skills, and we think that's an attractive reason to get involved. After participating in this, the designers and developers will have learned the newest XR platform. They'll have participated in an interdisciplinary team to build a solution, and they'll gain experience with the medical workflow, which is one of the most critical things in building solutions. It's no matter how well designed something is, if it's not designed to work in existing workflows, it's a difficult cycle to adopt. We'll have a developer and designer course, mandatory 3 weeks lapse time, with some in-person instruction and individual assignments. And I don't think we're going to be ready for late November. The visionOS is a new platform, and it's kind of comparing it to existing XR platforms like Unity or others. It's like comparing an airplane to a helicopter. Functionally, they do the same things, but they do it very differently. So it's going to take us a little longer to figure out the engineering and to on the course. We're making extremely good progress on it, and it'll be a very valuable experience. The participation is based on application. We've already had some people complete applications, and we hope that you will as well. And that requires a commitment to participate in the design sprint. And it's a fair trade for learning this new platform and the learning experience. Collaborations. We're looking to collaborate with experienced XR developers and designers who want to acquire visionOS development skills. We're looking to include and work with at either the mentor level or as a participant level with XR designers, medical device designers, or medical device product managers, mentors with development experience, and mentors with translational medicine experience, the bedside to the lab and back to the bedside experience. And then clinician domain experts that match the challenges. So these dates are off. I haven't updated them. I think we're 6 weeks off on this calendar, but it's a worthwhile investment on developing the course content. So I'd mentioned this before. The reasons to participate. we're working on getting accreditation for the clinicians to get CME credit, and we'll see if we can do the same for designers and developers. But just in general, continuing education adds professional experience and professional value. I'd mentioned the mobile timeline. What created the ecosystems behind that made mobile development almost ubiquitous around the world in the last decade and a half is all the boot camps, the meetups, the professional groups that got together and shared their learning, and this is very much the same. Learning the newest XR platform and methodology is valuable, and to gain medical XR experience. If you'd like to apply, you can either follow that bit.ly link, which I'll leave up for a minute or so, or you can use the QR code. So, I didn't want to take that down. So, if you just take a minute to grab that, we'll be good. So, okay, so let's end this. And you might see a cat cross my keyboard. He's been trying to, and I think he'll probably make it. So we have so we've got one question here so far. I don't see any hands up so far. So I'm not really knowledgeable on the medical aspects as a game design major, but what role would someone from that background have in something like this? Well, I'll start, and I'll let Jenny finish, because I think she'll be more comprehensive than me. If you look at the larger medical XR companies out there, like Oso VR or Applied VR, they have game designers and developers on their staff. In fact, they're the founder of Oso VR that does surgical education was first a game developer who went to medical school and went to and became an orthopedic surgeon, and then decided he'd put both together. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Jenny.
Yeah, I think it's very much in line with what Steve mentioned. I think kind of like the game design, especially focusing on the design, is a starting point for pretty much every other interaction you could have with a particular medium. And make no mistake, XR Vision Pro is a particular type of medium. So it's taking that, I almost kind of think of it as like it's a skin, like the medical aspect is the skin, but then the core functionalities of human to device interaction needs to still feel good, because I believe, even though I'm a mechanical engineer, I think at the core of a lot of these technologies is it needs to be easy to use. It needs to be intuitive to use. I don't want to be doing things that's kind of back in the well, I'm dating myself, like late 1990s, early 2000s, where I have like to pull out an instruction manual this thick to figure out some software. So definitely very welcome. Use your skills, pick up some new skills.
So I'm going through the webinar chat because there is at least one question here. Hello from Cambridge. Oh. So we have the University of California School of Medicine, MIT Emerson. There's an immersive project there. I'm just running through this. In terms of this being, there's a question as to whether or not this is a local or virtual event. This is going to be a local event, and the design sprint is local. It's not that if you want to come to Boston and participate that we would say no, but the important thing is to start working here in the Boston area to accelerate and expand the research and development in this field. So that there'll be plenty of local types of activities that you couldn't do remotely, especially. For instance, seeing how a clinician reacts to using the application, or the training. I think maybe you might talk about some of the ideas we've had in supporting the teams, Jenny.
Yeah, I think so kind of, as we've also mentioned, this is very purposely not a hackathon. We're calling it a design sprint. And within this time period, we are actually expecting the teams to go through at least a few cycles of that design iteration. So we'll be pairing teams with mentors who are familiar, like clinicians familiar with that problem, so that you can directly get feedback. Really start your work very informed. And we are expecting to have hardware for teams to borrow, but probably not one for everybody. So teams, like the team, will have to share, and that will also be facilitated by having teams being able to meet in person. Also being able to visit hospitals, and a lot of these XR things, I think meeting with mentors, it just works much more efficiently in person. And kind of after this design sprint, for teams that do want, that are interested in keep pursuing it, we will have support for getting funding, primarily focusing for, at least initially, on SBIR, STTR. If you're not familiar with those programs, they're pretty much oftentimes called America's Seed Fund. They are government grants, but they are non-dilutive, meaning that you don't have to give up. You can form a company, you don't have to give up shares of the company, which, right, VCs will often take like 20% at this like seed stage.
It's interesting. I ran an XR hackathon at the University of Southern California, and one of the winning teams built a therapeutic application for people with Parkinson's, and it was really beautifully executed. They had a Parkinson's technician who led the way, but then after the event was over, one of the designers went back to Norway, and one of the developers went back to Canada. There was one person from LA, and the two other people, I forget where they were from, but they all flew home for the most part. So that didn't. They had something that I think you could have gotten an SBIR grant for, but they just couldn't continue because they had lives to lead elsewhere. I put the application link into the group chat. So if you're looking to apply, you might grab that bit.ly link. So let's see. Are there any prerequisites for the program? For content, I'm a software engineer familiar with medical standards like IEC 62304, but I'm not in the XR space. It's something we think about a lot. Jenny's thought a lot about transformative education, and I think you're a much better person to answer this.
Yeah. So definitely, we know that designers and developers will have different skills, but I think for more of a developer, the engineer side, is you need to know at least one programming language. We're not unfortunately for this time frame, we're not going to be able to be teaching you. Like if you don't know what a loop is and you don't know what a if statement, while loops and all that, like we're not going to be able to get to that level. If you know at least one, like where like our materials should help you get up to speed. If you know iOS development, right, like Swift UI, that would be perfect. Vision Pro development native, the Vision Pro development is pretty similar to developing an iOS app. If you don't know Swift or Swift UI, but you are familiar with like Android development, right, like Kotlin and Compose, there's a lot of similarity, so you'll be all set. To go through the materials we have for you, and that'll set you up. If your language that you're familiar with is like Python or Java, that's okay too. It'll just mean like you'll probably have to spend a little bit more time during that course, right, to pick up the frameworks and things for mobile development. Because from a native development perspective, Vision Pro is pretty much like mobile development from just the code architecture and Swift UI. If you are so like if you are not familiar with XR, that is okay, because actually for this development as a developer, Vision Pro, it's easier to take someone who's like very good at coding and Swift UI and make them familiar with XR than to take somebody who like maybe uses Unity but hasn't really written scripts and teach them all of the programming aspects. So if you're a designer, then there is a lot of similarities in type of things you can do with a Quest or WebXR to Vision Pro, but then there's also a lot of other differences as well. So it's probably helpful if you have some XR experience, but at the same time, not be so like embedded in it, because there does take a bit of a shift in thinking. And we are going to be having some pretty strong design folks we're bringing into the instruction team that will be able to help us sort that aspect out as well. Because our goal here is to really create projects that feel like a Vision Pro app.
Yeah. The other thing I would add is if you are there's no reason that we'll just have we have to have just one software engineer per team. And your experience in the medical field is incredibly valuable, and ability to communicate with both designers and developers, I think would be your ability to interpret the needs. I think have been finally finally prepared from your experience. So you should definitely apply. No question about it. So we have another couple of questions. When will we be notified of the application results? I would say that there was also a question of when the applications are due. We currently have set the deadline for the end of this month to complete the applications. So we might hold another session like this to attract more applications to get the people that are really interested and want to do this event. I'm going to guess that we'll be able to answer the question when will you be notified when we get a little bit further down on the course development. That's a pivotal point when the team says we'll be prepared on December 15th to start the training course. Then we have to start accepting people, and we're going to start to work through the applications pretty soon because we need to go through and it's a small enough group that we can talk to everyone. So I would say that training will start in December or January, and we've got to give people 3 weeks notice or so. So we'll have to move directly. So you'll hear some I would say sometime in December as to what your application status is. When and how will we form teams? This is more engineering the right team. It's a small enough group that of teams, 10 to 15 teams. We can look at each team and each person and match them with one another. It's what I learned that was very effective at the AR Surgical Summer School. It's not to say that we'll be totally rigid on that. If a developer comes in and says, I work with this amazing designer every single day, and they really want to do this, we definitely talk to them and would be open-minded to adding them to a team. So it's the teams aren't fixed in size, and because it's not competitive, you could even have let's say a designer or developer that work between multiple teams on this, which I also saw at Belgrade University Hospital. There was an engineer, Katarine from the German Cancer Institute, that I know our team wouldn't have finished, and I know that there was another team that wouldn't have finished without her sharing her AR skills that she had. So that it's not an absolute hard and fast clear answer, but you can also email me if you've got questions. Stephen with a V at medvr.io. Do you want to add anything?
No,
Jenny?
No, I think that was pretty comprehensive. We've got more questions around time commitments. So everything what we're going to be doing, it's not going to be full-time expectations. We know that you're all going to be working or being taking classes. So it's going to be our required activities going to be evening and weekends. Right now, I think we're leaning more towards like weekends so that your evenings are free to do what work you need to do for the project. So time commitment wise, I would say 15 hours a week. It is not. Should not be so much that it gets in the way of a full-time job, but it is not so little that like we don't get anything substantial at the end of it. That's kind of how I think of it. Basically, anything below 10 hours a week, it's hard to do, hard to get anything really substantial, and anything above 20 hours a week, then we're going to be running into issues with like a full-time job. So, yeah.
So, Caleb, thank you for your question, because it poses a question that I meant to ask. He asks, he's a professional Unity XR developer. What resources are there that he can get started with? Firstly, email me, Stephen at medVR, and Stephen with a V, medvr.io. And we'll put together some resources for you. But secondly, the designer that's worked for us has is one of a team that's starting a company out in Oswego, and isn't available. If there's a designer that wants to work on web design for us, we need to put this part of our activities up on our website. Things like resources, what the flow is like, updates on application dates and decision dates. So if you'd like to work with us as a designer, we'd love to hear from you on that. But I think Caleb, that's really cool. We'd love to get you started, and we've had 3 really smart people pondering how to do this for a few months now, and we've got the full support of Apple behind us to do it. So we've got some pretty good ideas.
Yeah, and then in practical terms, I think so this design sprint will be using Swift UI. So if you are looking for something to get started, those would be the 2 things to start learning. It does require a Mac computer, or at least an iPad. If you just have an iPad, there's like a Swift playground, so you can start playing around and trying in. But if you want to run the full Xcode, you do actually need a MacBook and some sort of Mac computer. It doesn't have to be a MacBook. It could be like a Mac Mini. But if you don't have that, I wouldn't go out and buy a new computer for this. Let's put it this way. Like we're not anticipating that people are Swift UI, Swift experts coming in, if that makes sense. Like you're not going to be behind or anything.
Yeah, and in addition, we'll along with headsets, Apple's committed to providing headsets, and we'll also get a number of MacBook Pros for people to use. So it's in a couple of years, I don't expect this to be the same, but historically, a lot of XR development is Intel based. I think it's going to come down to somewhere between 30 and 40% of the people have the participants have Macs with the appropriate configuration. There's a quick start. We had Miguel Gonzalez, who taught himself how to build for the visionOS, and we recorded his talk, and I just put that into the chat. That's a pretty good start for finding where the edges and corners of development for it is. So it's a worthwhile talk. So do we have any other questions?
There's a question about where the recordings are going to be posted.
Oh, they'll be posted on our website and on our YouTube channel. In fact, I'm going to share my screen in just 1 second, because I think this is useful for people who want to dig into the applications of this. So let me. So we've got over 50 talks that we've that we've posted, and most of them are about the medical XR innovators' journey. They cross domains of medical expertise. And you'll also find some other talks that don't quite fit that. For instance, the Food and Drug Administration that regulates medical XR uses us as a channel to reach innovators with updates on their views on regulation. And they should be commended in that they're really putting a lot of effort and resource into not being an obstacle. For instance, they'll do pre-application, applications at no fee, and will look at what a development team is planning on doing and give them guidance. But if you take a look through medVR.io, we cross many different specialties. This talk from an engineer at the University of Carlos III in Madrid built a tablet-based application to scan scan a healthy ear to create from cartilage a congenitally deformed or injured ear, and to create a replacement. It's some of the best engineering I've seen in a long time. There's a group out of Carla School of Medicine, which is University of Illinois, that is using VR as a training program for advanced cultural competency. And their first application is to train interns and clinicians about interacting with a postpartum woman of a different race. Really super interesting. Walter Jean, he reported on his first 100 cases of using VR for surgical planning in cranial surgery, and then using AR as guidance during the surgery, and it really shows the power of these technologies, because his experience in these 100 cases were less healthy tissue was damaged. The tissue makes you, so that's clearly important. The craniotomy opening was smaller, less loss of blood, better outcomes, and shorter hospital stays. But I could go on and on. This is really super exciting in terms of the people that you get to deal with. Professor Dr. Jag Dandra, XR surgical training, he's with the British medical system as a surgeon, but his passion project is training the surgeons globally in not just in the most economically developed areas, to do critical and surgeries and emergency surgeries. So how to have an impact, and he's absolutely wonderful. If you ever want to understand what passion is, you should listen to him. He's fantastic. But there's many talks there, and you can go through and pick and choose.
So I think, Steve, I think Zoom was set up weirdly, and at least I'm not able to send messages to everyone through the chat. And I think your last few links were also just sent to the host and panelists.
Oh, you're right.
So can somebody post the questions onto the Q&A, and then I can actually put the links on the Q&A for everyone.
Actually, if there's a drop down, and if you just,
I don't have that option. I just see, like, on that drop down, just say host and panelists and you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so yes, everyone, the link that Steve just sent out, that's the YouTube for Miguel's talk. And Steve, you want to post the application URL, though I see John already sent it as well. Yeah. All right. I see a question about looking to buy one of the new MacBooks. So I think, not positive, I think that technically the spec required is like 4 GB of RAM, but I would say like at least 16, because I don't think you're gonna be able to run simulator very well at 8. But personally, like, if you're, dropping the money for MacBook Pro, I usually find I don't go wrong. Like, I never regretted buying more RAM. Let's just put it that way. Like, the Xcode itself can be heavy, and then the Vision Pro development, if you're using the simulator, can also be even heavier.
Yeah. So just to emphasize what Jenny said, I put the links to Miguel's talk and the link to the application in the talk in the webinar chat, and it went to everyone. Let's see, yeah, someone is agreeing with you. What's most important for Xcode is space. It is a huge piece of software, so you would want one terabyte.
Yeah, so that's like the hard drive. Yeah, the hard drive is also for like XR. Once you start putting assets and things, projects can get big. And yeah, any of the either like Xcode or even if you're downloading Unity later, um, that they also, I think they're like a good 20-ish gigabytes each.
So Nick said, "How big are the teams usually?" I'm somewhat projecting here, but I think there'll be 3 to 5 people. I think it's hard to get critical mass with more. Though I love being wrong on things like that. But we've got a short period of time, and probably 3 to 5. But we wouldn't say there can't be a 6th person on the team if it made sense and delivered critical skills. So okay, Daniel, you put the application on there too. You put the non-bit.ly link. Good, thank you. So any more questions here? And if not, we're gonna.
Oh, there was another question about deadline. You just want to repeat what if somebody missed that?
So the deadline on the application is at the end of this month, right now. So if you're interested, you should fill it out. We're going to be digging through them and sorting them, sorting through them, and also contacting people and talking to them about their application and experience and interests. So the earlier the better. It'll give us more time. Yeah, there's more on the size of the MacBook. Yes, get a big MacBook. Yeah, it never hurts to overspec your computer, and people tend to have Macs for longer than Intel machines, so you'll appreciate that.
My personal strategy is buy a very high-end MacBook and then keep it for a few years.
So I think we're good. I thank you, Jenny, for joining us. It's you all have such good insights. Let's see. Yeah, somebody said they forgot to include a link to their portfolio. Resubmit it. Don't worry about that. We want as much information as possible, and you get to understand a lot from someone's portfolio or GitHub about what they've been working on. So Jenny, thank you for making it tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm Stephen, Steven at medVR.io. If you have questions, or if you're a designer and want to work on making the designs for part of the website, I'd love to hear from you. So on that note, I'll say goodbye to everyone, and we might do another one of these. So if we do, you'll hear about it via email and also from our website and social media. So take care. Have a wonderful